Hello, this is Mod Wiz, also known as Rad or Radagast, with another Weber promotional video. And where am I? There I am. Hello, welcome to those of my subscribers who will follow, who are interested in the musical side of me. Hello, CJ. There have now been 4 new hemp releases. Now, I just want to really clarify that I am a Weber enthusiast. Love Weber speakers. I think they are the best speakers. If you like articulation and being able to really use your speaker to kind of give that the finish to your sound, because a speaker is the last thing. Everything else from your actual skill and tone that comes out of how, when people pick up a guitar, whether it's an electric guitar or an acoustic guitar, there's a sound. Okay, everybody has their sound, and then you will have the amp you're using, the pedals you're using. But the ultimate thing, when you finally want to get what you do amplified, when you're amplifying what you do, obviously acoustic guitar can be amplified, but with the amplification stage, the last thing that takes your sound and releases it not only to yourself but to the people who are listening to you is your speaker. And I just really feel that one of the things, besides excellent speakers, the variety that Weber offers allows you to really fine-tune your sound. I mean, I know that, a lot of people really, they're chasing the amp, they're chasing the guitar, they're chasing the pedals. Some people have an awareness of the speaker, but I really think that part of actually picking the right speaker is knowing what it is about your sound that you want people to be able to hear. And the articulation and the attention to detail, and of course the magic of something that is handmade. Like, in other words, they take the parts, the cones are pre-stamped, the cages or the housing that it all goes into. I mean, obviously all of these parts come, they're not taking their magnets and filing them down to the side, but all these assembled parts are then to finally put together a speaker. And there's a new hoodie out from Weber speakers. I think it's a hoodie I would like to get, and it's the anatomy of a speaker, and it shows how a speaker is built. So obviously, as you see all these different parts in this thing, I wonder if I could call that up while I'm speaking. No, I kind of need my hands to speak. But so in the anatomy of the speaker, so you have all these parts that will come from manufacturers, but then that final assembly into the speaker is done by hand at Weber. And not only is it done by hand, it's done custom-wise. So anyway, they have some new models out. I guess I should probably switch over and see that, and we'll look at that. Now, the last time you're going to see those 4 models that you see are the ones I discussed last time, and they were specific. They're 2 different sizes. They were both the 12-inch and the 10-inch sizes, and Weber makes everything in a ferrous and an Alnico. Not something that everybody else does. I mean, you can get a Cannabis Rex, and that will be part of this discussion, from Eminence, but you can't get an Alnico version of the Cannabis Rex. Well, now you can, because in the new releases are the top of the line, 1.5-inch voice coil, 12-inch speakers in hemp. And these are the American voiced. So this puppy right here, I'm going to click on it, okay? Come on. All right. So just so you kind of know what you're looking at, the way Weber codes itself, the 12 is the speaker diameter. The F lets you know what kind of magnet it is. In this case, it's a ferrous magnet. This here, 1.50, or they don't put the point, but that should be, you can see that as 1.50. That's an 1.5-inch voice coil. And then their H, because usually their suffixes will give you the final piece of information. In this case, the H is letting you know it's a hemp cone. So this is a 12-inch ferrous magnet with an 1.5-inch voice coil with a hemp cone. That's what it, okay? Now, this is really the equivalent, especially Now here's the other beauty. Let's go to Eminence Cannabis Rex just for a second. So this is on Sweetwater. When it comes to retailers, I like Sweetwater. Wayne Davis is my rep there. Hello, Wayne. I doubt you would listen to this. Anyway, so when I got my Hot Rod Deluxe a couple of years ago, it was a special edition. It was blonde with wine. And anyway, so this is the Cannabis Rex, okay? And before we even get into it, let's just look at what people write about the Cannabis Rex, okay? Look at this. Okay, so this Cannabis Rex was probably, other than Tone Tubby, which has all its different speakers, and Tone Tubby does exclusively hemp cones, and I love hemp cones, but it has to be a decent speaker. So I've listened to them. I mean, to me, when I listen to all the other speakers that aren't Weber, they all have their own kind of, I guess, unique sound, like a warehouse guitar speaker, a 10-inch houseware guitar speaker of a certain specification won't sound like an Eminence as far as the tonal spectrum. But for me, what they're all missing is articulation. It's just something I hear, and it's subtle. Maybe other people won't hear it. I actually think people do hear it, because I think it's one of the things that if people say, nah, I don't like Weber, to me, what they don't like about it is that you can hear everything you're playing, especially at room volumes. And that can be painful. When I started using Weber speakers, I had to make corrections. They were like little muted notes that I didn't realize weren't ringing as well, and I realized I wasn't compressing my strings. I'm a bass player. And so when I go to guitar, sometimes I don't remember some of the guitar things to do. Playing through Weber speakers helped me to fix that, because I could hear for the first time little teeny things. Again, it wasn't like the note was mute. It just wasn't really ringing. And with other speakers, I didn't quite notice that. When I switched to Weber, I could hear that one of the notes in that chord was somehow different. And then when I would slow pick each note, look at that, my third finger wasn't pressing on the B string on the third fret and getting that D correctly in that D chord. I love Weber, and behind me, well, right now I can't even see my own self, but behind me that little box, actually I don't need to see myself. The little box is an 8-inch Weber. That one there has an Eminence Little Buddy, and we're going to get into talking of that, because the Little Buddy is very similar to the Weber speaker I have in my amp, which is the 10A150H. So in other words, it's a 10-inch speaker with an Alnico magnet, has an 1.5-inch voice coil, and it has a hemp. So anyway, let's look at some of these reviews. Now, the Cannabis Rex came stock in my Hot Rod Deluxe, because it was a special model, special colors, whatever. So I got a chance to experience the Cannabis Rex. These are some of the people at Sweetwater. This speaker totally transformed my amp in a good way, smoothed out the highs and tightened the lows. I installed it in a Hot Rod Deluxe, and it took that amp to a whole new level. Very happy I made the choice to use this one. It complements the Deluxe perfectly. This guy had to buy one. I got my Deluxe in there. It cost me a little extra. And then somebody who said cannabis wasn't good for you. I have a Blues Junior Nose with a Jensen speaker, and had it he gets into his whole thing. Anyway, he says he puts in the Cannabis Rex, loved it. Okay, great speaker, smooth, rich, and powerful tone. And they all kind of, this speaker took all the harsh bite out of the high end and rounded it out beautifully. I cannot tell you the difference it made. Sounds like a much bigger amp. You have to hear it for yourself. Cannabis is good for you. Cannabis Rex, it is. Love that vintage tone. Now, so love that vintage tone. And here they say premium American tone, but it's the Patriot series. It's part of their, would be what Weber would call their vintage speakers. They're Jensen type speakers. And then besides the Patriot series, Eminence has their Red Coat series, which is the English sounding speakers. Anyway, so you can see right now that people who took their Hot Rod Deluxe and put a hemp cone speaker in it are loved it. I mean, based on 60 reviews. And if you can see, apparently there's a few people, there's some people who want to assault your ears with ice pick treble. And if you give them a cannabis-based speaker, they won't be able to hurt you anymore. Sadist gonna sadist. But so as you can see, based on 60 reviews, largely 5-star reviews. And I mean, in this one, obviously, Sweetwater is going to put all the good ones at the top. And I can just imagine, probably the complaints might have been the high end. The high end is different. The high end now sings; it doesn't scream, and that to me is a big difference between. I'll get my face on here for a second. A big difference between paper and hemp is paper reproduces, and when it's asked to reproduce really high notes and sometimes very low notes, depending on other configurations, it can groan or scream. And those really high notes, the reason they're ice picky and they kind of hurt your ear, it hurts the paper to reproduce them. Hemp is not like that. Hemp has long fibers. It can handle anything. The lowest bass frequencies, it'll just hum along like the earth humming from thunder. And when it comes to that higher stuff, it will sing it. But because it's a longer fiber, that same note comes out, but it sings. It doesn't kind of come out in these what to me sounds like pain from the speaker. And hemp is just beautiful. It sings every note. Paper reproduces, and very often paper reproduces very well, but it's not singing. Hemp is singing. Hemp is like alive in it. Do you think I like hemp? Yeah, I like hemp a lot, and I'm talking about hemp. And there was other jokes, about because hemp is in the genus cannabis, but it is, again, you wouldn't even want to joke about smoking this, because if you did, the results in the headache would not be very funny. So anyway, so let's get back. I'm going to go back in. I'm getting a little confused here. I'm going to transition back, and we're going to get off Sweetwater, and we're going to go back to Weber. So anyway, here is the Cannabis Rex. So basically, let me just quickly show you something. This is the face of the Cannabis Rex, okay? And if you will notice something, I pulled up another Eminence here. This is their Wizard. So this is an English type speaker. See this stuff, this shiny stuff here that isn't here? That shiny stuff is called dope. And very often, and I didn't know why there was dope, and it's not here, but there's a page here on Weber that will tell you what dope is and why you would use it. And basically, there is a certain thing with paper cones specifically, because this is the history of speakers is paper cones, and there's something called cone cry. There are certain, I guess, almost like a feedback within the speaker itself. When certain notes are hit or certain sustains. Weber does a very good job of explaining it, but I'm just going to gloss over it. So dope is something that you can use to help not allow that resonance to build up in the speaker and cry out. And often will happen during some soaring solos. It'll happen at very inopportune times. So the use of dope is big. I mean, I have a what do I have? I have a Red Fang Eminence 10-inch speaker, and it has the dope on it. But if you notice, even Eminence didn't use dope on the Cannabis speaker, because Cannabis never cries. It only sings. Paper cries. So anyway, back to Weber. So this is their beauty, okay? This is basically the equivalent of the Cannabis Rex. Here's the Cannabis Rex. And if you want to see, it's a 50 watt, 8 ohm, 12-inch speaker. So if we come over here, it isn't automatically 50 watt. We'd have to come here and tell them we want a 50 watt. All right? But maybe you want a 25 watt. When might you want a 25 watt instead of a 50 watt? Well, maybe if you're putting it into a Blues Junior. A Blues Junior, like my Super Champ behind me, is a 15 watt. Much of what I'm talking about here isn't just about Weber. It's really about your guitar tone. And the reason Weber is in here is because, to me, as the final product, after all the work you've done into getting your tone out there, you want to me, for me, I want a Weber speaker to be the final voice on the voice I present to it, for its articulation and because I can fine tune them. So anyway, let's get back to fine tuning. So this could be a Cannabis Rex if under the power you select 50 watts. But if I had a Blues Junior and I liked a little speaker crunch, I happen to not really like speaker crunch. I like to get my crunch from other places and then have the speaker reproduce what has been put into that sound. That might go in another video. So here we have the exact same parameters as the Cannabis Rex, but if I had a Blues Junior and I still want a little breakup, I wouldn't get the 50 watt. I'd get the 25 watt. Well, that's you can if you wanted a Cannabis Rex, 50 watts is the only thing. So you can come over to Weber and you have your choice between the equivalent of a Cannabis Rex or something different and then smaller. Like a lot of people like speaker breakup, and that's the next new release, but we won't get ahead of ourselves here. The other thing is, they do offer two impedances here. They offer an 8 ohm and a 16 ohm. A 16 ohm makes sense because if you have a 12-inch cabinet and you want to keep it at 8 ohms, you will get two 16 ohm speakers, put them in parallel, it'll drop it down to 8, and then you have an 8 ohm cabinet. So it makes a lot of sense. Most cabinets are working from 8 ohm, even with extension cabinets, like I have a Hot Rod Deluxe with one speaker in it. I can put another attachment on it, but it better not be below 8 ohms because I'm now dropping the load to 4 ohms. I hope I'm not getting too geeky for people, but I think if you're into this, if this is not your language, you might want to include it because it just might help you understand what it is that beautiful sound you're trying to make. And when you're doing it through electro equipment, those things matter. Anyway, back to Weber. So Weber also allows you to do 16 or 18 ohm, but you can also get 4 ohms. And sometimes it might be, well, what the speaker might be traveling to other cabinets in the future. There's whole kinds of strategies. And in the case, if you got 4 ohm speakers, you would put them in series. Two 4 ohm speakers in series will produce an 8 ohm. If you have 2 speakers, will produce an 8 ohm cabinet. So if you need an 8 ohm cabinet and you're working with 2 speakers, you can get 2 4 ohms or 2 16 ohms. And very often that strategy might become in, if that speaker had to live alone, is it better to live alone as a 16 or a 4? I mean, this is strategy. The other thing is, now with Weber, okay, this is what you'll get on the back of your speaker. If you get the Ferris one, and then of course you have 5 choices of colors. Now you will get a different sticker. Now here you get an Alnico. Now of course if you get the Alnico, you will get this on there instead of that other one. And you still get your choice of 5 colors. And and as you see, here's that dope category I mentioned. And so anyway, you might notice a little difference in price. Okay, in other words, this one is $79, this one's $117. You might go, oh man, hey, this is one of the things I like about having Weber speakers. I mean, to me, they're like heirlooms. These were handmade. You know, it's just like the difference between, buying a chair that was, built in a factory, or somebody handmade you a chair. And so these are precious. Weber speakers for me are precious, especially the ones you order. But even though I have a signature series behind me, which at that time I think I bought from Musician's Friend or something, they're still exquisitely made. I cannot say enough about this. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that Weber now has their new speaker out, which is the same as a Cannabis Rex. I read you some of the reviews about one of the first 12-inch hemp cone speakers from a bigger market, like Eminence. Eminence is huge. Which brings us to the latest. The page up. Those are the ones I discussed in my last video. I just finished these 2, the 12-inch hemp. Now, this group of, I'll open up this one. This group of speakers, the O series, okay? The O series is pretty unique. The big thing about the O series, and it's funny they're not showing it here. I can, uh, if I go to, so we're going to go to signature series because, and then I'll get back to there. Okay, like I have the ceramic signature 8S, which has ribs. This is really the ceramic signature is kind of the equivalent of the O series. What the O series are is they have no ribs on the cones. And the ribbing actually allows the speaker to absorb more energy before it starts to get into speaker distortion. Without those ribs, the speaker goes into distortion a lot quicker. And that's what. And here's a description on any of these O series. You'll read this very similar language: warm, crunchy, early breakup, aggressive. Okay, so basically it's that warm, crunchy, early breakup. Early breakup is part of what the warm and crunchy is, and that is from these um, unribbed speakers, which are what the O series of speakers are. Okay, okay. We'll get back to this. So they now have this O series of speakers, which they in. I mean, this is an inch and a quarter voice coil. They offer it in 20 and 30 watts. How many in this case they give you four different impedance. There's a reason to use 3.2 ohms, but it's not necessary to get into that. Basket colors as usual. Anyway, this is the ferrous magnet one, $92. But then they also will have the Alnico one. So we're back to the new models. And then, okay, so this here will be the Alnico version of it. And it's funny, they won't show, but they'll say here, smooth hemp cone for late 50s and 60s basement concert using Alnico 10s and a good replacement for the Chicago Jensen P10Q. Once again, they're very specific speakers that Jensen made, that they do faithful reproductions of, and they will tell you each one. And Jensen, like Q, is Jensen's way of telling you that it's an Alnico speaker. And we'll see the similar language: warm, crunchy, early breakup, aggressive, loud, compressed at high volumes. Compressed at high volumes is something that always goes with Alnico. I actually had, since I don't like speaker breakup, I had never really quite heard that. And so what I did was I plugged in my 8-inch signature and I plugged it into my 15-watt Super Champ, turned my Super Champ on 10, opened my Telecaster up all the way, and heard what compressed was like. I might even give you an example if it won't overload my things. I have my guitar on. I have all the speakers behind me, and I was going to see how long my talking took and see if I included any music. So these are the new models. These are pretty incredible because they're high, they're up to 50 watts. They come in both Alnico and in a regular ferrous magnet, which is something that is not being offered from the Cannabis Rex. Again, this would be the similar thing to Cannabis Rex, except it's a Weber, which means articulation, and it means the ability to customize. If you wanted a 25-watt one, you can get it, and there are certainly places for it. For me, my speaker is the platform, really, for me to get all the sound that I'm making through my fingers, the guitar I'm using, the amp I'm using, the tubes I'm using, how hard I'm driving the tubes, how open up my pickup is, taking that sound and then giving it to a speaker that has color and a certain tonal expression. But I want that speaker to basically duplicate the signals I've given it. I don't want it to join in. That's my personal preference. There are people who love to drive their speaker and like that sound, and that's part of their sound. This is not and this is one is right, one is wrong. No, this is our sound. The only people who might ever have a way of saying is the audience. But that's for each artist to figure out. The last release over here of these speakers without their ribs, if you like speaker breakup, the O series by Weber is will you will think you've died and gone to heaven. Especially if if you have like, let's say we're just going to pick this little the Ferris, which would be the least expensive one. There are certain people who might not even like what Alnico does, and or not be able to hear it, and to pay a premium for something you either don't like or can't hear would be silly. So let's look at your basic workhorse speaker, which is a Ferris magnet, and Ferris to me is kind of like paper. It does a great job of reproducing what you give it. It doesn't add, to me, it doesn't add the magic that Alnico magnets do in their interplay between their elements. It doesn't. Okay, that's the magnet. This speaker, you see, you have the power select, so you have 20 or 30 watts. So let's say you had a Blues Deluxe, and you basically are not in a band. Okay, that's why you have a Blues Deluxe, and you like to play in the bedroom, and you just want. I mean, but you really would like that speaker to bark. You get a 20 watt, one of these early warm, crunchy breakup ones, and you'll get that sound. Or maybe keep the speaker you have, do what I did, and build a little speaker cabinet. Oh, I probably should in this case, I should put my camera on. Or do what I did, and this here, that's a 10-inch speaker in there. I just built it out of plywood. Actually, I can show. This is my 8-inch plywood. Actually, what happened was I bought my original Weber, and actually I have a little. Now I like open backs because I don't like closed back. I don't like the sound, but this has the flip down, and there it is. There's my Weber signature speaker. This is the one with ribs. It's not at the early breakup. 15 watt, 8 ohms. Okay, so you might want, I mean, this is my 8-inch speaker cabinet. That's my 10-inch speaker cabinet. Anyway, so this particular speaker would be something I would recommend anybody who likes speaker breakup. But then there's the other thing, is where this will always break up early, and when you want it to hold up, it might not do it. But again, there are certain people who have a certain tone that they want, and they want it all the time. I'm a bass player, so when I do play guitar, I write in different genres. Like there are certain songs I'll play with crunch, or other ones I want, glassy, clean. There are other ones I don't want with as much high end. I mean, it's a palette. It's kind of like how we, the difference between Italian and Mexican and Thai. I mean, it's really just spice usage. But in a case like, to me, if you've been looking for that crunchy thing, but maybe not always want, build yourself a little speaker cabinet. Get one of these early crunchers. You may have that one live in your cabinet with the old more, I guess the ones that you're frustrated with because you have to make them too loud to get them to do what you want. With the O series speaker, they will break up earlier. If you've been wanting to just go in your bedroom and be left alone when you're really going, this might be the piece of equipment that you really wanted, because you've tried the distortions, you've tried the different things, and in this case, this might be your answer. I would like to be able to help Weber become more popular. I'd like to help more people be aware of Weber and what it has to offer in the way of really fine-tuning your sound. I mean, there are so many different ways. And for me, one of the things about a Weber speaker is where pedals might fall in and out. A Weber is, again, it's that handmade speaker, like a finished product in articulation, unlike other speakers. And it can be uniquely your own within the parameters, that voice coils, and of course what they have available. But I really cannot think of a better speaker company than Weber. But maybe you want some O speakers. So that'd be like my final plug for Weber. And anyway, so check it out, tedweberspeakers.com. Here it is, tedweber.com. all these drop downs. I mean, again, I have amps, cabinets, but I went through it in my last one. I'll be, little by little, I'm going to make these half-hour plus videos to kind of focus on things. This was like new model releases, how you might use them, how they compare, you know, comparing a new speaker that Weber just put out in the last, I guess it was last week, that the what I will call the comparison to the Cannabis Rex came out from Weber, and so I did some comparisons. Eminence has a huge market. Again, they make good speakers. I think Weber makes great speakers, and that's it. So there you go. And I'll probably see you in another week or two with one of my music videos. Thank you all, and we'll see you next time. And CJ, I hope you like this one.